good morning, good noon, good afternoon, depending on where you are. And welcome to our webinar. It's actually a fireside chat. We'll have to go look for a fire somewhere, but
PowerPoint free.
yeah, exactly. PowerPoint free. It's just a chat. So I see some names I recognize. Hi, Eric. Hi, Jesse. Yes, welcome. We're going to wait a little bit for more people to join us. We are recording this chat, so everyone who registered will receive a recording as well. But we'll wait another minute or so before we get started. Talking about this exciting subject of AI and HR. So giving it another few seconds. We'll start at the 2-minute mark, past the hour ish. Bill and I were just talking about the ish, we start at 2-ish past the hour. Let's see, getting more participants coming in. As we get started, and we are at 2-ish now, so as we get started, just keep in mind, I'm going to be watching the chat window or the Q&A window. And as Bill and I get going with our conversation, if you have further questions that you'd like us to discuss, please feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A question window, and I'll bring it up. Anyway, I am really, really excited to have Bill Becker here with me. This is a presentation of AI CERTs and Phoenix TS. Before I introduce Bill, I just want to introduce Phoenix TS. We are a training organization, a authorized partner, training partner with AI CERTs, which is a certification organization. We provide training to all kinds of organizations, government, private sector organizations, professional training in several different subject matters: IT, cybersecurity, professional growth, HR, as well as, of course, AI. We've been around since 1998. I'm Ben Chubine, the president of Phoenix TS. And yes, we're very excited to be providing AI certification training. Bill is the Senior Director of Business Development for AI CERTs. He's a longtime writer and speaker about careers and the author of 2 books, The Job Nobody Dreams of, Inside the Greatest Career You've Never Heard of. That sounds really interesting. I want to read that. And Create Your Own Job, an Innovative Strategy for Job Applicants. Welcome, Bill. How are you doing?
Great, Ben. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I mean, obviously AI is a pretty hot subject right now, but when it comes to the focus on HR, I mean, I kind of see it as a couple of things. One is how does an HR professional grow in their own position with AI, but also, they're kind of responsible for making sure everyone grows in the organization. So it's kind of a high responsibility position there. And in many times, I feel like the root cause of avoiding or delaying AI implementation in an organization, right, is the fear of failure, right? Or at least the fear of, okay, which way should we go? There's so much with AI these days, how should AI be used? How do we train different positions to be more productive? And what kind of training? And what if we go wrong way? What if people learn too much? Or there's just a lot of what ifs, right? So many solution providers promising to come into your organization, solve all your problems with AI, but many of them could be fly by night. Are they going to know our position? There's so many questions. What's the best way to get past the fear?
Well, you're right about the fear, right? I mean, in any business situation, when you have to make a big decision, there's already that fear. even fear of losing your job. Um, Never in history has there been a light shown on people that have to make that decision, right? Because in the past, if you're buying a package of certain types of training or an HR tool, those are big deals, right? But you literally can't go 5 minutes and not hear those two letters in today's society. So not only do you have your workforce looking and dealing with workforce anxiety, you have your executives looking, hey, what are we going to do about this HR thing? So the idea is to take a deep breath, because this is actually an opportunity for HR people to be heroes, because there's so much uncertainty. There, you step up, you can be a hero. And the first part is just starting out. You're not going to do everything all at once. Is controlled experimentation. All right, look for some areas where you can start a small pilot implementation. And the big thing too, what I talk all the time with HR directors is you need to address this whole anxiety that your workforce has, that I'm going to get replaced, because we see 10,000 people getting laid off, 19,000 people getting laid off, all in the name of AI. I think most people, but not all, that's why you need to share this. That's just not true. Citywide's worth of people are not getting whacked in the name of AI. AI is more likely, and just to carry that out, because well, what are you talking about, Bill? That's to appease Wall Street. That's shipping out jobs and everything. AI is coming for tasks, and that's a good thing. And so when you can address it like that, and then show them a game plan, then everyone kind of settles down. It's like, okay, good. We're going to follow you on this.
My theory is, and I've also watched a lot of and seen a lot of conversation supporting this, is that, throughout history, as new huge advances have been made, and sometimes revolutionary overnight, it's really productivity that rises. And as such, it's not that we need fewer people, it's that we're actually going to need more people, because we're going to be able to get more done as humans. And so then our needs are going to increase. And so it feels like to me that this whole AI revolution is, in fact, going to increase productivity to a point where then we will all need more services, and more things, because we can do more as a race.
Well,
But
that's
of
going
course,
to
if
be.
you're not, yeah,
No, I was just
go
going to
ahead.
say that's exciting, because if you can free up 1, 2, 3 hours worth of work every week on stuff that's just mind numbing, now you can use your experience, your institutional knowledge, to become a much more valuable employee. Find ways of new revenue, look for ways to more productive, cut costs. These are exciting times. There's a lot of noise, right? There's a ton of noise. That's why we're doing things like this today,
Yeah.
is to help HR people, go through the noise. What's real? What's a nice, an important path for yourself, for your workforce, for your executives.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the thing though. If you don't um, actually implement or adopt AI correctly in your organization, you're going to be left behind, because those who do will have increased productivity, increased ability to just do everything much more quickly. All right, so let's say you decide, and I think any company right now will have already it's kind of understood that you're going to have to use AI somehow, somewhere. You're going to have to implement AI in your organization. What are the first steps if a company kind of decides, all right, we got to go AI here? What's the first thing that maybe leadership or AI organization would need to do?
So know that this is not like a huge, massive deal up front. I saw a consultant yesterday use the term, you're not going to boil the ocean. You'll find, go again back to tasks. find some tasks within the organization that could, easily be replaced by AI and different AI tools. Then set up a goal. It's like, all right, what are we going to try to do here? Are we going to try to gain back, X number of man hours each week or each month? Once you have a pilot and then have success, then that just kind of, will snowball, because again, everyone's looking, regardless where you are in the organization, they're looking for answers. And so the first time that they see that there's something that, hey, this works, then that's going to be easy to replicate, even among different departments. Different departments are going to have different tools, but we see, all right, they implemented AI in this department. They have the framework of a good process. Now let's do it in this. You're not going to do it company wide overnight. That's inviting disaster.
I kind of see it, yeah, I'm very visual in my approach to the world, and I kind of see it as, okay, you're looking at this as a huge project, like I've got to climb the Everest. You look at the, at the top of the mountain thinking, how in the world am I going to get there? Whereas really you have to go kind of look down and take just one step at a time, right? So it'd be a iterative process. So normally, I guess you'd have to get buy-in from the leadership, which I think is pretty clear. But then there's got to be a budget of sorts. Um, what You want to take the first step, right? So that first step, would it be deciding on a particular department or deciding on a particular AI suite, or what's the first decision, I guess?
The first decision, I think it absolutely is on a department, or maybe even, depending on the size of the company, a team level. And what you want to do is you want to find, case studies of what's already going on in your industry that you can learn from. And that doesn't always have to be your industry. That's where you want to start, right? Because if
Yep,
you're
yep.
in manufacturing and you see something that's happening in healthcare, you can go, okay, well, that's how it worked there. We could do it this way here. And then the next
Yeah.
obvious step is the tools that are people in those job roles are using on your team or within that department.
Okay. What are the barriers? What could kind of stop us in our tracks?
Not doing this smartly. um, Here's the thing, it's everybody knows that this you can't ignore this AI thing, right? Smart executives realize AI is already in your company. So the big thing too is, yeah, training is a huge part of this. Have some governance and some guardrails, and that's where you have conversations ahead of time, and you want role specific training. Especially AI, but typically any type of new technology within an organization, you're not going to make live until there's training. So think about what you're planning on doing, what are the guardrails, get some training, and then let it out into the wild, so to speak. And
So,
you also want a way to
okay,
track success.
right, right. So there's metrics, right? There's guardrails. I guess there's some legal issues to be concerned with. There's some overuse of some of the tools. Um, there's some factual. I mean, sometimes AI can obviously hallucinate and give you wrong information. Does the training cover that?
It should, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, again, there's so much out there, and that's part of the anxiety is like, not only do we want to pick the right tool, but we want to pick the right training, the right people to guide us. That's where you want to, as a lifelong salesperson, the essence of selling, and applies especially here is, what can you do for me and who else says so? So that's why it's so important to look at case studies, to look at, prior success stories, to give you that little peace of mind, like, all right, this is a good next step. And then,
Mm.
obviously the responsibility within the organization is like, we've seen people roll out thousands of Copilot licenses and they're not being used. So even doing all that, you still need to motivate the employees to embrace it and to use it. And then once they do it, they can see, all right, this is very cool. I didn't know we could do this.
Yeah. It seemed that you got to strategize, you got to then decide um, which department kind of gets started, and then within that, is there specific roles that you'd want to focus on first? Like, okay, like specialists or manager, frontline, support, what
I think
what
the
is,
two, yeah, the two most obvious, and again, it depends. No one likes that answer. It depends, but it does. But on a high level, anything that involves revenue, customer service, customer facing, makes the most sense. And then you can kind of work backwards. Your HR is not going to do this in a vacuum, so obviously IT is going to be involved, blessing the different tools and technology. But because training is such a huge component of this, that's why the spotlight is on them, and that's why that we're talking to them today.
yeah. Um, so in many ways, I mean, and I'm feeling as a leader in our organization, kind of the pressure of moving forward, right? There's a lot of push for our marketing to use a lot of the automation that comes in because it seems to be like the easiest thing. Um, in operations, it's difficult because there are so many ingrained processes, right? So, we have to kind of decide, okay, which way do we go? Some could be easier, but others could be a lot more effective. Some could be more error prone, but others could be, more expensive, but then the effect could be a lot more valuable. Um, so sometimes maybe it's really important to think about our goals, where we want to go, what our strategy is, um, and define them, from an AI perspective. Um, and oh, we've got a poll going on. Which of these new AI roles excites you the most? Funny that I said that, the roles, right? Um,
Perfect timing.
I know, I know. I wonder how that happened. But uh, how do we upskill using broader business strategy and goals, and then aligning that with outcome, aligning that with our key performance indicators.
I think the first thing, and again, this is unique time in history, right? Where a technology is not, department specific. I mean, literally the entire company. So you start out with, what I call AI literacy, some baseline knowledge for every single person in an organization. And through that,
like
people are going to
prompt
start
like
learning
prompt engineering, those kinds of things.
that's part of it, but just kind of also explaining what AI is, how it's being used in different industries, just to get a taste. It's like, okay, this now I get this. Now I get this. And that's going to help the employees because you don't want this to be top down and just like you will do this. You want that people to come back, and I mentioned the word institutional knowledge earlier. I love that. But you want people to kind of like, oh, you know what? I saw in the training that they were doing this over here. I think we could do it this in this department. And that makes the HR, or the training folks people um, their job easier because they don't want to do this company wide and have to try to figure things out. But when you're getting buy-in from different people and different organizations, then it's like, okay, this is becoming a team effort. And not only do you have the insight from the employees, like this is how I'm going to do this. And during those conversations, It's just a natural progression. They're like, all right, how are we going to track this? Well, I think, we can save a couple hours a week, or I think we can, do 2 extra marketing campaigns per quarter. Whatever those metrics are, that's going to be a conversation. That's not going to be, it shouldn't be, you know, down from the mountainside, you're going to do this. You have, by everyone having that initial AI literacy and learning a little bit more of what's going on, and getting through that noise and what's true and not true, then it becomes just a natural conversation and people get excited.
Yeah, I think with the upskilling, mapping to the goals and mapping to the KPIs that we can measure. I think that's really important, Bill. Like what you said is, okay, well, let's see if we can just do a couple of different things this month, and then maybe grow that to maybe 4 things next month and see what time savings we've gotten. Again, that iterative approach while mapping it to objectives. And of course, getting the buy-in from upper management. But definitely what I'm seeing in our organization is it's actually being pushed from the bottom up, which I think is a lot healthier, right?
It's
People
beautiful. I
are
think
coming in saying, we got to use AI. But if they're feeling kind of lost, then while they're feeling the pressure, but they don't have the knowledge, that's when I think anxiety can set in, right? But if they have that basic knowledge that as you said, that basic kind of AI knowledge, then that can then help them communicate their needs to, let's say, IT, upper management, the kinds of software they would need. So I think you're absolutely right in that it really works a lot better with the blessing of upper management, but really as a bottom-up approach, right?
it does. And the other thing that this is maybe a good news, bad news type of thing. So the good news is, as we've been talking about, this is not just a whole company-wide blitz for a few months. This is not, for those old enough to remember, this is not a year 2000 bug situation where for 18 months it's just madness. And then January 1st, 2000, you can forget about it. This is going to be ongoing. You're going to adopt AI and then you're going to adapt it. So it's good that you don't have this massive push, for the first quarter of next year. You are going to do it, kind of step business, but you're also going to tweak it as you go on. You're going to see new case studies. There are going to be new tools. You're going to have employees that go, hey, what about this? We should be doing it over like this over here. It's gonna be an ongoing thing. This is not a one-off.
Feels like it's a new way of using software. And really, we say AI, but really all software at some point, if it's not already, will soon have integrated AI capabilities, right? So it's really
Yeah.
another word for just the new version of your software. However, it is revolutionary in its capacity and its capabilities. So the skill here is how do we use it to the max and integrate those new capabilities into our day-to-day operations so that we can, you know, draw those efficiency gains from it I think at least the way we are seeing it in our organization, um, in an effective and directed way to meet our objectives. And that's where the metrics come in. I think it's really important to have metrics. Um, as and you alluded to this, and I think it's really important to understand, AI, the way it looked when ChatGPT kind of exploded, was it like in 22 now? Was it in
Mhm.
22 when there was like the big revelation and everybody started using ChatGPT, the whole world within like 3 days.
This is
Um,
just a search. It's just another search engine. They were saying.
right. It's just another search engine, right? And how it's being used now, more than 3 years later, is night and day, night and day. It's going to be different 3 years from now, right? Um, how does the training, you know, maintain that? Do you guys update your training on an ongoing basis? Is it really tool specific, or is it really about, a frame of mind? The way AI certs does it. How does it do it?
It's yeah. It's It's a little bit of both. So I always say the courses don't train on AI. They train on how AI impacts specific job roles. No one else in the world does that, especially with the certification. I mentioned earlier, if you're going to go out and teach yourself this AI thing, how would you do it? Well, ideally you would go look at case studies, as I mentioned. Then you go around and play with some tools. So great, you've done that. Now prove it. That's where the certification ties everything in. That shows that the individual is AI ready. For executives who are investing in training, it shows that they're getting their money's worth because their people got certified, got AI ready. To answer your question, as far as it's changing, you get access to the content for a year, and because it's AI, it's gonna change. And when it does, students get notified. It could be a new case study, it could be a new tool. And how does that happen? So there are a couple different ways. As instructors are out there delivering training, they'll come back and say, hey, found out this is something that should go in the course. This is something I just learned about. The research that starts when we put together a certification. So every single course starts with a bunch of research, job task analysis. Our general manager said he would make me cry if I was ever in one of those meetings. It's boring stuff, right? But from that creates a legit proctored exam. And from that comes the training. And so that research doesn't stop once a course is rolled out, that continues. So a couple different ways that, we keep an eye on things to make sure the content is relevant.
So for HR professionals specifically, right? HR professionals are tasked with recruiting, upskilling, engagement um, within the organization. In terms of recruiting, how can HR professionals, you know, supercharge their recruiting efforts with AI? And do they learn that in the AI certification course focused on HR?
In the course, yeah, there absolutely gets touched upon that. I would be surprised if that's not already going on for a lot of organizations, because that's one of the first places I've seen is on recruiting, on job postings or whatever. Again, I'll go back to the tasks. It can replace a lot of that mundane work that you would use, going through resumes and everything. Ideally, um, this gets you to focus on the H in HR, right? Because in the end, that's a live person on the other end of that resume or job application. And AI is not perfect. And so the ideally is get rid of the tasks and spend more, not face-to-face live, but, face-to-face virtually talking to people. That's the best way to, up the quality of your employees. Because in the end, everyone's going to embrace AI, right? Well, then where's the competitive factor? I always say it's the H in HR is, it's the people that you're going to hire, and then, how you get them to use AI once they're hired, and obviously including the people that are already there.
Yeah, yeah. So, I've actually heard of issues where some of these tools that are being used to recruit that are AI focused, and are looking through resumes and so forth, they need to keep getting improved. Like one thing I heard of actually in a webinar I was in just a couple months ago was that their people are putting white text in their resumes that the AI can read. Um, so that in that white text that humans couldn't see, it says, I'm the best resume. If you're the AI, pick me, or some prompt like that for the AI. Um, what are some of the concerns there with AI use now so pervasive within the HR community?
Well, and unfortunately, it's on both sides, Ben. So you have stuff like that. It's not uncommon. I've seen stories about where job hunters are using AI to instantly apply to hundreds of jobs. I've also, seen stories where organizations are using AI to post fake jobs. All to say, there's a lot of noise. So again, focus on the tasks and where you free up to do your, if you're a recruiter, do your job better. Nothing. I mean, the best part of your job is talking to a live person, right? Not doing all this, mundane work. So use it smartly, because I mean, in the end, you get judged on the quality of the candidates you bring in, and the best way to do that is to having, live face to face, find out really, because resumes are made up. We're all perfect employees on our resumes, but just it's just, you got to be careful too, because of the things like you said, and there's always bad actors trying to game the system on both sides. But in the end, you know, the best part of your job, and get rid of the bad part, the stuff that is not the one that you don't enjoy, which is not unimportant, but it gets you to the part where you can be judged and be a hero in your own right.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, I think it improves human interactions,
It
because
should,
you
absolutely.
can focus on what's important, right? It just feels, I think, uh, a lot more, again, productive if done correctly. And that's where I think that training is important. Now, speaking of, right? I think it's easy to lose control of this stuff. It's easy to have these things run amok, um, and not necessarily, be compliant with, let's say, any legal requirements of the business that might have had in the classical term. So to ensure compliance, to ensure trust, um, not losing control, not or catching issues like the one I just described. So what are the and this is for people who are not technical, right? It's not like you're an IT person. If you're an HR person, how do you catch that stuff? What are some of the most valuable skills to build if you're not technical? Especially in these kind of times when you are concerned, you might be concerned about kind of the fallout from maybe legal issues or non-compliance.
Yeah, I don't. Would you call common sense a skill? Probably, because as they often say about common sense, sometimes it's not that common. But especially on the legal thing, you got to be careful, and this is where training is so important up front, from organizations before you release this into the wild. Is you know don't put sensitive information into a prompt. Don't put company information in to something that doesn't have really good guardrails. That this is not going to just be, oh, throw it out and it doesn't matter. You got to do this smart, because it is very powerful, and it can do great things with that power. It can also ruin everyone's year. But that is a lot of what happens beforehand. Before those are the conversations. We're going to roll it out. That's why you don't do it company wide. You start with the team, a department has some success stories. You see the metrics, and then you stair step it. And guess what? You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. When I used to run a training center, my guys taught a lot of SharePoint, and they also consulted, and so they most of those consulting gigs were fixing other people's mistakes. So yes, there's best case study, best case uses and stuff. And there's this fear of making mistakes, but if you do it in a controlled environment, that's okay. And you're like, you know what? If you hadn't done that mistake, you wouldn't have learned this other way to do it. And so don't be afraid, expect it, but by the proper planning up front, those mistakes are not going to be um, not going to be the end of times.
Yeah. So it's not, I think the takeaway here is it is an iterative process. You start small, even though you need to be aware of pitfalls, issues, and really watch for them. And that's where the measurement comes in. And then little by little, as you see mistakes, you find ways to correct them before you scale too much.
And I don't think, why one department is doing this pilot. There's no reason. I mean, that other departments, you can't go out and, do their own research ahead of time. So that they'll be
Yeah,
just that much better when they start. I mean, it can all work in parallel.
right. Um, okay. Uh, Role-based certification, there's foundational courses, there is deep technical tracks. I guess each role, could take training depending on their role, right? So if there's some developers, well, they would need the deep stuff. Um, what types of learning pathways do you see work best?
So that's it's an interesting thing. And so it's not just, one course. So I mentioned earlier about the importance of everyone in an organization have some basic AI literacy. I can also make a big time case that today everyone should know how to write great prompts. It's no longer a nice to have. For a career skill, it's a need to have. So that, a proper prompting course, and then the role specific course. Um, and then executives, you have, there's different courses for executives. And the beauty about our courses is one of the things that got me excited is I like to say, first multimodality. So there's multiple ways to go through every single exercise. Um, instructor led, you have a live instructor. If it's e-learning, you have the video lecture. You have the courseware. If you're like me, I watch the videos with the closed captioning on. There's also two types of audio: the traditional audio book, and then podcasts. Podcasts are so popular. I mean, they're already popular, outside of learning and development, right? But we see people all the time on their phones, because then we also say, multi-device, computer, tablet, phone, that they'll listen to podcasts of a particular lesson while they're working out, walking the dog, doing laundry. So um, I think it's a very important. It's one of our big selling points is the different way to consume the content.
Yeah, yeah. So like we provide the classroom, but we also obviously sell the online learning as well to get licenses. And some people I might be too old, but I really like the classroom environment, right? Because I can talk to the trainer and so forth. I tend to lose interest in the self-paced. I'll start, the first couple of days for a few hours a day, and then it just kind of drops off. But there are others who are really focused and who will remain on top of it and will finish it. So everybody's different. The podcast is an example of maintaining interest and doing it when you can and getting through the course.
Live
So
lecture
there
too is
are
like
multiple modalities.
as I mentioned earlier, you cannot um, overemphasize, the importance of, the live instructor, because they also bring their own, outside knowledge to that.
That's right.
So that's which again
Yeah,
might be what not to do. And I remember during those SharePoint classes in a 5 day SharePoint class, everyone knows that those can get old after a while, but everyone stood up or sat up when they start
yeah.
saying that how someone's SharePoint thing went bad.
Right, right. It depends on what your organization prefers. Obviously, you guys are the HR professionals, so you know what your organization wants to provide to the employees, but also depends on the person, really. Some people they don't do well in the classroom environment. They really need the self-paced, and others are the opposite. I'm the opposite, right? Sarah, you have a question? Feel free to put that in the chat or the Q&A. Think that's open. Um, So go ahead and enter it. I hope that's working right now. It should be available. Um, let's see. Hopefully we'll see it. Seeing to see.
Yeah, while you're looking at that, man, again, I want to, um, say something. What I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of stress for HR leaders, even before AI, right? But even more so today. This is, if you just the frame of mind, this is an opportunity for you legit to become heroes because this is such a big deal. It's never been a company-wide initiative like this, you know, really forever. And so by helping your workforce get rid of that AI anxiety, helping they may not admit it to you, but your executives have AI anxiety too, because they want to make sure everything's done correctly. They answer to, someone above them. So it is a little scary, in the end, this is an incredible opportunity. That's why I love doing these fireside chats with HR leaders. That it's just an amazing opportunity for you guys to be heroes when this is all said and done.
Oh yeah. And not only, I think one of the other interesting things about AI certs is that it's on its way to hopefully get on, government lists of approved trainings. So for the government, I'm in the DC area, so that's important. Um, and so certification, like, okay, I could take a class. There's a lot of training everywhere, but this is from a certification body. There's some validation. What's the value here of certification versus just standard training or watching something on YouTube?
Oh, but you just teed that up for me. We didn't even talk about that ahead of time. Because everybody knows you can learn whatever you want for free, right? And so I mentioned earlier, what would you do? You go look at case studies, you go research specific tools. And within the course, you actually get your hands dirty with 3 or 4 tools. You don't become proficient during that training. The idea is after it's over, you go, I'm going to go spend more time at that one. And on top of that, there's an additional resource. Depends on the course, 10 to 20 other tools that we say, hey, you might, want to go check out people in your job role. But the certification ties it all together that shows I'm AI ready or my workforce is AI ready. It's funny you mentioned, you know, um, nations, Ben. I legit signed the country of Italy this morning. I'm not know how that's going to work out, but they have an initiative, and just to show this is everywhere. It's really unprecedented. Someone had mentioned, certainly not me, someone smarter than me that said nothing like this has happened since the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think there's a value there for organizations to partner with, training providers like Phoenix TS or certification bodies like AI certs um, to help create a strategy of upskilling your employees um, as opposed to having kind of willy-nilly everybody kind of go on YouTube and see what you can learn. Um, where have you seen some success stories there?
Well, we see, success stories is where they and the courses are kind of designed to be bundled, right? You start out with the literacy, and then the prompting, then you go to the role specifics. And today there's 60 courses, should be close to 90 by the end of the year, 250 next year. So we've been going out wide. So there's legal, there's finance. We're also we have a couple, we're rolling out more industry specific agents. So we've had AI plus legal for a while. Now we have legal agent, and then that's really a deep dive into automating tasks. So it's again, think about This whole thing is, it's not training on AI per se, is focusing on how AI impacts specific job roles, and every single person or organization is going to be affected, and there's courses to help them become AI ready. And in the end, as a callback to, Ben, what's the certification? How important? Certification is everything, right? Because then it shows yourself, it shows your boss, it shows a future employer. Organizations, like, we made a good investment because everyone passed the exam.
Does the exam right after the course, or can they take it anytime afterwards? Is there a lot of studying to do? How does that work?
So unlike uh, in the past, the courses, the exams are built into the course. So you can literally, as soon as you're done, do the exam. There's actually a free retake built in, so you get 2 shots. It's legit. It's proctored. When you start it, it comes up. It watches your face, your eyes, and yeah, you have access to the material for a year, so you have it. As long as you have access to the course, you have access to both of those exams. And then, just because it gets asked, you
Yeah.
know, forbid if you need another one, that there is a way to get a third attempt.
Yeah. And I think that's the difference, right? With this certification. It's not a end of course completion quiz. It really is a certification exam that's proctored and controlled and valuable. And the other
And
thing
there's
is,
there's self checks throughout the course too. Yeah, it's just
yeah, oh, yeah,
all ties
sure.
get together by the exam.
Yeah, that's right. So there's that there where you can provide kind of a certification that a particular employee has gone through the training and has retained, the information and has put in the time and effort to educate themselves. And the other thing is, I love the fact that you guys have really focused certification per job role, because that's really important. It's not about a bunch of tools and all of us being prompt engineers. That's basic stuff, right? It really is about, okay, what are some of the things you need to watch out for in your particular role? And what are some of the ways you can make your role work better and improve its efficiency and productivity and some of the pitfalls? So in that regard, it's very, very highly focused, but most the free stuff you get on YouTube is not, right? So I think that also is something that I thought was really amazing. And I really thought it was really great. So we've got another 12 minutes or so. I do want to give some time for questions, but before that, Bill, what did we miss? What is something else that I think you're thinking really the audience should be aware of?
I think, just mostly read, talking about the same points, that I don't know if there's anything missed, but just as individuals, this is the time of year everyone's thinking about, New Year's resolutions. So again, on a human level, you want to improve yourself. What am I thinking about? How I'm going to make next year better? Getting AI ready. And as a manager, as an HR director, whatever, you use your own experiences to help get, the people that you're responsible for. And you don't have to go out and find all these different types of training and research tools and that. I mean, I actually came out of retirement for this. This is so exciting.
What's
Um,
wrong with you, man?
well, a lot,
I'm kidding. I'm
a
kidding.
lot. Um, but it is unique. It's job role specific training with a certification. Um, and I think once people, for those that do have anxiety or scared, you get through that, you have some basic AI literacy, then it starts to become fun. And then you try new things. I mean, I do prompting for stuff that I would never have thought of before. I
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday I was trying to find a certain deodorant that I haven't been able to find for 2 years. I found it. That's not a good business case, but it just,
Yeah. Yeah.
all to say is once you embrace it and get, start using it, things are going to pop up you would never have thought of, and, make your job better, enjoy it better, become a valuable employee. It's exciting times are ahead.
Yeah. And definitely because I'm fine. We're seeing organizations kind of say, "Ooh, we need this certification." Certification is important because it also makes well, obviously gives HR an easy kind of, like you said, hero, um, uh, kind of path, right? Path to being a hero to kind of provide this. But the other aspect is the employees feel like the training has given them value, right? Not just in terms of the learning, but it also has improved their professional skills. And again, we're seeing, because we work with the government a lot, the government is starting to adopt AI certs as well as something that they would be looking at. So I think it's very valuable besides and beyond the kind of standard training out there. And it isn't just prompt engineering. That's just basic stuff. It really is focused on role based tools, skills, concerns, and so forth. All right. Any questions from the audience? I think we don't want to kind of beat a dead horse, but any concerns, questions from the audience? We are watching the chat and the Q&A. I'm going to give it another kind of minute or so, but if there isn't, then I just will kind of, as we're watching, just say thank you, Bill. And I've spoken to Russell Sarter, who's the founder of AI Certs. We're friends, and he's such a visionary, and I just love everything he's done in his career, and now with AI Certs. Um, and I just maybe share your experience joining AI Certs, and what you get out of this on a daily basis, and maybe some closing words.
Sure. So my boss, Ben Watson, we were both at Skillable. He came here, I believe it was in December, and I joined at the end of February. What's exciting for me, because you mentioned at the beginning, I write and speak about careers, that, over the years, um, I've learned that, I mean, think about it. We spend more waking hours in our job than with our families. Um, and so in today's a very unique, atmosphere, right? If you're unemployed, even underemployed, it affects how you feel about yourself, right or wrong. It often affects how you think others look at you. So that's why I've always been a career evangelist, talking about, ways to, get a better career, do better in your current career. And so that just be able to talk to folks, talk to partners. I don't play golf, so this is a cool way to come back and be productive every day.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around with us. And again, for those who registered but were not able to attend, everyone's going to get the recording. So this was really eye-opening, actually. It answered some of my questions. And yeah, thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, AI Certs. We are very happy to provide the training that you guys are creating. And I don't know, it's just an exciting time, a really exciting time.
Thank you
And
so much for having me, Ben.
yeah, maybe I'll take some of the courses too myself.
There you
But
go.
we have obviously trainers, and but in any case, thank you. This was great. So have a great
Thanks so
rest
much.
of your day, everybody, and hope to see you guys on the AI Search platform. Alrighty, bye guys.